Alright, good evening. Happy Sunday evening. So let's get that in here. There we go. My water over here. While my board dog gets to look at me like I'm a crazy person talking to myself. Hello, over there on the Twitchy side. Just playing around with some inks. I started this one on the stream, but just touching it up today. I think I got from it what I was looking for, mostly. So I think I'll move up here. In fact, maybe what I'll do is actually I'll cut this off. So I've got a knife up here somewhere. A metal ruler. That was just easier to work with, doesn't need to be on one solid page, right? So it's pretty level. Printed, I went and scanned in a ton of stuff yesterday. The trick to a nice even cut is multiple cuts. So rather than trying to cut it right the first time, 3 or 4 strokes is better. Yeah, I went and scanned in a ton of sketchbook stuff at the office. We have a larger format sketch scanner there. And I'm doing good. And then did a bunch of chores. This morning I went around and did some texture collecting. And then photo editing of those textures, which is not my favorite activity, but it'll help me later on with some stuff. Just do a little bit more. Someone to get that for me. There it is. The opposite direction. So, now for some of the 3D concept-y stuff I've been practicing, I needed some more textures. I was like, yeah, I don't have this kind, I could use some of this. So I went out and took some time to take care of that. I walked around for about an hour down near the freeway in the industrial kind of part of town. And had a bunch of good stuff. So came home and spent an hour or so processing them, straightening them out basically. Which, again, not the most exciting stuff in the world, but, you know, helps move projects forward. So there's like about 100 pictures. Some are actually older I took a while ago that I just hadn't gotten around to. Like when I was at the Green River Observatory, on top of their big dish. Not many people get to go up on top of, much less take photographs while they're up there. And so we had that opportunity to do that, and took that while I was up there and around it, because they don't allow, basically they don't allow electrical devices, unshielded ones, within a certain distance of the satellite dish, and so it's a big radio listening dish for astronomers. And so they can't, any kind of electrical interference has to be accounted for, and therefore allowed to bring anything past a certain point. It's open to the public, but you just can't like bring your cell phone on and into the past a certain point in the area. Within an hour near it, you can't. There's no cell phone coverage, and so the only place you can get to the internet on your phone is in a museum. They have like a little plug-in to their Ethernet. I have time for this nib to be retired. So, well, that's how I'm doing. How's everybody else doing? I work in the photography field? No. In fact, the pictures I was taking, I was using just my phone. So, but I was, we were on site for a university project. Our department, communication arts department, I guess we're looking at. I'm not directly involved with this project, but I guess they're looking at scanning the tower, the big dish. That'll help them kind of be able to actually see some things about the dish that maybe they're not anticipating correctly. And so they invited us out there. We did a quick little test run with a drone, small like commercial drone, consumer drone. And so we were out there doing that. So we were on site for a couple days. I even got to bring my dog, though they didn't really kind of plan appropriately for that. Where, like, we were busy during the day, but we had to be out in the morning. And so we had to find a place to kind of deposit my dog outside where he'd be safe for a couple hours. but he was fine. But I teach drawing and design at Virginia Commonwealth University. Mostly concept art and perspective and figure drawing, that kind of thing. Illustration, generally. So, and then my background's in visual development and illustration and painting and that kind of thing. So, yeah, never photography as a profession. I only photograph well enough to take the kinds of pictures I need to take. Yeah, character design, environment design, storyboarding, that kind of thing is all my jam. Yeah, so I was taking photographs of textures and details and things today. Less focused on, let's say, an entire building or a scene, or I take a picture of a wall or a window or a door, kind of details like that, things that I can incorporate as kind of random textures on a 3D model, so that we kind of a lot of them be hard to identify what they are in the context of where I'll be using them. So those are the kind of pictures I was taking. But yeah, so it's kind of been like a lot of busy work this weekend. Yeah. Have you looked at the work of Daniel Warren Johnson? He's a very popular comic book artist right now. He's got a very kind of sketchy style. Very, very popular. Right now, lately he's been doing a lot of writing actually, but he did illustrating for I think the first 6 or so of the new Transformers series. It's part of that Robert Kirkman universe. Oh, yeah, I should look him up. Daniel Warren Johnson. I think he's quite good. He's got his own books he's done too, his own properties and things. He kind of came out very popular very quickly when he I first started. As I'm inking, it's a color pencil drawing I did originally, and this is a printout of it in red. Just so when I want to scan it in and color it, I don't have to worry about the. I think I really just gotta get a new nib. Yeah, Daniel Warren Johnson. Oh, he's great. Let's see if I can get this out of here. It's getting there. He live streams every Friday, actually, if you go to YouTube. Fridays with D-Dubs. It's stuck in there real good. Use my scissors to pull it out. There we go. Scissors aren't the best thing to use for that because you don't want to dull them, but you know, just needed a new nib for my nib holder. Oh, good evening. Wherever everybody was. So loading up a fresh nib here. Let's see how it does. Oh yeah, it feels much better. Oh yeah, it feels so much better. Yeah, they only last for so long, and then you gotta swap these ones out. So the nib holder I'm using, I get it from jetpens.com. I think it's from Deleter. It's a mapping pen size, so it's for the more narrow nibs. And then I'm using a Hunt 102, which is like, you know, the basic kind of traditional inking, especially for like comics and that nib. I don't remember the name of the holder, but it's kind of the more narrow type. So there's like your wider types and your narrower types. And so this is that narrower variety. So, but I have some different ones I like to use, but that's the one I'm using right now. But I can definitely feel the difference. So yeah, that's what I'm using. I don't remember the name of it though. It's it can break with time, so there's like a little shaft inside to hold the nib. in place, and that can fail eventually. I've had it happen before, but it takes a while for that to happen. But the HUD 102 is pretty commonly used. It's you can find it most places. Has a nice little kind of bounciness to it. There's a similar looking one that's from Zebra, but it's way, way stiffer, which can be good. But I think I prefer the bouncier one. I see, yeah. Yeah, HUD 102 is really, really popular. Actually, there's a couple different ones I've been using. So I've been using that one a lot. On rougher paper, or maybe I should try it on this paper, use this one. It's a Zebra, I forget the exact name of it, but I have a bunch of them. Then, but I've also been using this one a lot, which is a calligraphy style nib. I think it's the C3. So it's a little bit like the thickness of the width on the tip has got a flat tip there. There's wider ones. This is one of the narrower ones. And so I like that one, I think the most of the ones that I've seen, just because it gives you that little bit of extra kind of variety because of that narrower tip. So, but I'm kind of trying to warm up into doing some actual pages. I'm working on an update to kind of my concept portfolio. On the process of doing that, I've kind of come up with some story ideas. And I thought, a comic might be a great way to explore them. Yeah. So yeah, the Hunt 1 2 again is just really popular with comic book inkers. Like, we look up any videos on like traditional comics inking, especially Western, American comics, superheroes, and things like that. You'll definitely see the Hunt mentioned. You can get a variety of line out of it. So, yeah. So yeah, the current story I've been working on. This is actually the original one that I was going to do, but put on hold for a little bit, believing the other one would be simpler, and I've kind of gradually made it more complex. But the story I want to do now is basically this the Bramble World thing, and then it's this guy. He's a member of this colony. They've been there for like 80 years, and he's being sent out to investigate a potentially lost and now found colony ship that's been missing since they landed. And so, yeah, I've got a first page printed out over there. It's funny though, actually I realized that when I was setting up the print file for it from the pencils that I made a mistake in the print file. I've since fixed that, but it doesn't really make any difference in that particular image. And I realized too that the scanner I was using, it was doing this weird photo mode thing where basically it was treating separate areas almost like individual images, which it really shouldn't do, right? It was I just wanted to scan the whole picture. And I didn't realize it was doing that until I'd scanned in quite a few things. I didn't realize how much it had affected the pages. I was able to fix it kind of digitally. And I could just go back and I guess rescan the pencils later on. But yeah, I think the next goal is, well, A is to put together some of these pages, and that'll help me solidify a few things, and then start putting together a pitch for the project, something I can present either for like like a crowdfunding situation, or send to like show to image or somebody who knows if it'd be successful or not, but that's kind of the goal. And then the whole, between much of my career being digitally focused and all that, and I thought it would be nice to kind of shift into doing more traditional work, and so I put a lot of time and effort into that for this project. So well, a lot of people do use Blender for, concepting stuff. They'll block it, use it as a blocking method for laying out kind of the perspective, playing lenses and things like that. It's pretty common these days, actually. See it on the ArtStation quite a bit. My only concern with that in general is that if you kind of come to the point where you're tracing it, you're not really, I think, understanding what you're looking at. So I think it can be useful, like in a production or a professional situation to a certain degree. I get worried that when people kind of rely on such things to do things like perspective or composition or even lenses like that, it can kind of stunt your ability to see it on your own and make you rely on that kind of tool for that. So it's kind of like if you're to only ever trace portraits or something like that. It's not that tracing portraits is always bad or tracing is bad necessarily. It's just that depending on where you're at and what it's for in your personal artistic journeys, it can get in the way of your own development. But it's, yeah, 3D blockouts are really, really common. These days. I mean, I've used them before. Back the first time I used it was like in 2004. So it's not like it's a new thing. Used it to build a weapon for a what's it called, it's card art I did a long time ago. Yeah, so that's always the problem. That's always the question. So it's like in my teaching, sometimes I'll come across professors. Their attitude is, well, you should skip to whatever professionals are doing now, and that's kind of what you should start with. And I don't agree with that at all. I always think, especially in foundational teaching, beginners teaching for students and that really the emphasis at the beginning and through most of their undergraduate education should be on things that do not change. That doesn't necessarily mean the tech you're using is going to be the same that I would have used as a student or my teachers would have used as students, but that the underlying principles you're seeking to understand are the same, because those just don't change over time. And they're really important to have and understand. Otherwise, you're just kind of building on a very weak foundation. Yeah, that's the problem with any of these things. Any things that kind of get in your way. So, like, I've met people who think you should only ever do short pose figure drawing, or they only think you should ever do long pose or super long pose or number of things. And I'm like, well, I think they help each other. I don't think it's an either or situation. But I do bump into that from time to time. Or people prefer a short pose because that's all they've ever done, or a long pose. And they don't know what to do with their time for other kinds of poses. And but each of them has their own kind of benefit. But if they were just to draw from photographs or 3D models in a figure drawing class, then that would really kind of get in the way of other things too. And that's always kind of the issue. So it's like we're trying to update some of our concept or illustration kind of not major, but a track within our major for illustration specifically. And I'm trying to put in this sequence of classes in there for it, where there's like a track for concept art and a track for traditional illustration, and they kind of work with each other. But I wanted this third level concept class that includes 3D as part of the concepting phase, and especially a focus on, say, Blender, probably be the emphasis in that class. Going over the major tools that you would use as a concept artist and all of that. But that would also help the people doing their illustrations, because it'd let them build maquettes and other things that would be, say, more challenging to do otherwise. And yeah, so again, that's where the problem lies. It's not that it's bad, it's just that contextually it can be a problem. So if you don't understand perspective or how lenses really work or how to manipulate them in your drawing, it means every time you sit down and do a drawing or a painting, you may have to use one of those programs in order to do it, rather than just sitting down and being able to sit down and sketch something out on your own. And I think that's kind of an issue. Let's see, I guess this grass is going this way. But there's like some 3D concept artists, like they only ever use the computer. Like they've never even learned to draw. All they do is sculpt things or build environments, and they're very technically minded. Like I've been going through a tutorial by Peter Kwiński, who's a Polish concept artist for entertainment, films, games, things like that. He builds like complex 3D environments. And he's never learned to draw. He just does 3D. I imagine learning to draw would be very helpful for him, but he's definitely got that kind of post-apocalyptic aesthetic going on that's very common. A lot of rusty buildings, concrete, very much kind of inspired by, I'd say, like a Star Wars type situation, but maybe more realistic. But I've been working through some of his tutorials. It's been interesting. Which tools he focuses in on Blender, which ones I don't know and aren't familiar with. A few of them, it's like, knowing how to use just like a couple of these modifiers that he uses really all the time, like it makes a big difference for the number of things you can do. Like simple deform and bend and taper. That makes it a lot easier to do certain things that I was trying to do, like how do you wrap a form, or put a complex form onto a cylinder or something similar. And And actually, the one of the courses I taught at the last school I was at, I do it here too, but it's basically how to use perspective and treat it as a camera lens. Because there's the major kind of linear perspective types you use, and by manipulating the perspective space, you can kind of craft lenses. And wasn't the first to come up with it. I did find some other people that have done it before me, but or maybe the first one to really bring it to the classroom. So that's cool. That was a green light. Been using it here too at ECU, but it's definitely very kind of different. It's a more, so one of the things I always try to do in my teaching is kind of figure out how the things that I know are important, how they're going to be most useful and applicable for my students. And so in that case, my students were mostly what we call motion designers. It's pretty popular design field right now. Hello, boss, you coming over? Checking out the bed. Because I know, like, a technical perspective isn't always the most popular subject. Even if it's really helpful and useful way of kind of like learning to see the world around you. Where's this one? But anyway, as a result of that job and kind of the students there recognized that I need to figure out something. And it was funny when I went around asking kind of the faculty of the motion design department, like what their students need to learn to draw, like what subjects or principles or what things do they use. And they were always just like, well, if you just draw more. Well, I guess that's fine, but really looking for things that they can bring forward in their classes. And so paid a lot of attention to the kind of work that was being done in their other classes, especially their sophomore classes. What things they were focusing on, and I realized that lenses were really important. You can kind of contextualize linear perspective, especially a technical perspective. You can really show the effect of lenses on things by changing what's called the cone of vision. Oh yeah, out with the inks finally, right? Learn how to draw some hands. Oh, appreciate that. Just saw there were some comments in there. But yeah, really thinking about the viewer's position and the camera and the scene and treating the the perspective as a lens, as a camera. Kind of doing all those things and then crafting course material around it made it really helpful for the students, I think, hopefully. As far as I understand, they're still teaching that same approach there. So I'm no longer at that school, Ringling down in Florida. But that's what I've been told, is the class is basically the same. Hopefully that's a good thing for the students. I have never done pixel art. I grew up with it, the NES, Nintendo Entertainment System. But I've never done it. There's an interesting, though. There is an app I bought, an application I bought for doing pixel art a long time ago. You can get it on Steam, called Hexels, and it's actually designed for making pixel art specifically. And you can actually do different kinds of pixel art. So it's not just square; it can be hexel, hexagons. It can be different kinds of shapes. You can animate in it. It's owned by Marmoset, who does the 3D rendering software, Marmoset. But yeah, I've never really done it myself. Seen some cool stuff with it though. There was this one, I forget her name right now. She kind of got in big with the NFT thing for a while, back when that was new. Mari, I think, something or other. But she does like these really cool buildings and things, environments with, I forget the name of the program, but it's like you build in 3D with pixel type shapes. Yeah, but as far as inking, yeah, I went and I scanned in a whole bunch of stuff recently. Actually, yesterday, and so and printed some of it out. So it's from my sketchbook, written in blue and red pencil. But seen some cool stuff with it. I just don't have. There's only one of me, right? And I've already got enough things I'm distracted by. Yeah, for those if you're paying attention over there, I signed a contract recently with a company that does kind of marketing for online courses. Um, but as a result of that, I think they said the first around this sometime in September, basically I'll have to close new subscriber access to my personal teaching site, so they can work me with their system. So so the site will stay up, but I won't be able to. I'll have to shut down new subs, so no one will be able to subscribe after that. But anyway, the courses I was talking about where we're learning how to treat perspective as lenses, those are there. They're also all traditional media, except for the in-depth perspective ones. I did those digitally in Photoshop. But you might think the simpler ones are in depth. That's over at myartprofessor.com. And there's like a free sample course over there. It's like a bunch of different pieces from the actual course material. But yeah, if that interests you, you head over there and check that out. There's like a trial period too before you actually get charged. So if you're not, if you're like, oh, that's not what I want, or I'm not really that interested in learning to draw, master perspective, you can cancel too. So yeah, it's like to finish the last course there. Specifically the one on the lens one, where there's a few other uh, finished illustrations I need to do for it. But the game feels good though so far, Jim. Mm-hmm. That's everybody. Always curious to know if the chat thing's always caught up or not. Good evening, everybody. Popping in. Right. Let's see. Let that dry. Fall off. flip it this way to get the right angle on that. That is so small. I think it's probably pretty close to actually the same size that I drew it with a pencil. That works okay. So it's intense. My phone's not plugged in. Explaining why the battery's almost dead. Let's try that again. There we go. That should help. Just noticed that. Alright, let's see, where's that ruler at? There we go. Nice streak. Always terrifying. There we go. Something got noisy out there for a second. Good evening. Personal project. I have a concept project I've been developing for the last while. Bramble. I don't know if I've told you about it or not, but as I'm working on it, I've been thinking of kind of some stories associated with it. Um, but anyway, this particular story right here is humans have settled on this planet, and they can't leave, so they're kind of stuck there. Some of the things they were anticipating, being there weren't there, like fossil fuels, so they can't really get off planet. But anyway, this is set much later after that, after their arrival. They've kind of integrated into living on the planet, and anyway, there's evidence on this planet of a prior civilization, but there's no like biological evidence. There's no bodies, there's no fossils, there's just these kind of structures that are left behind. And anyway, some of these are located in, most of them are located in kind of these reserves. And so there's the main kind of human colony and city, and then there's these outside areas. And so there's a guide who takes this little girl and her father, who's in the background over here, out on a excursion to tour some of these kind of forbidden sites. And the little girl gets separated from them, and they run into a bunch of trouble out there. And turns out they're all out there with their own kind of purposes, even the little girl. And so that's what this story is. This is like a sketch from that. Or the guide here, she's actually not supposed to be there, and she's also completely mentally unstable, or is she? The bureaucrat's actually a scientist researching the totems, but he's got a thing he's been working on he doesn't want other people to know about. I don't want to say what the little girl's thing is, but she too has her own secret. It was an initial story I wrote, but I've come up with a simpler one. Well, started out simple. I think it's still simpler. That could be done as like a short story miniseries type thing where it's set much earlier. So I started drawing pages for that one, and then expanded on it. So, but anyway, that's this story here. The other story is this guy. He goes out to investigate that I'm inking. In this case, this is actually I went and let's see, pause right here. Let's see if I turn this back on. But yeah, these are actually from my sketchbook. So I went and scanned in a whole bunch of sketchbook stuff along with actually comic pages. So I've got like a page ready to ink. I was inking a little bit earlier, just from the other day. Get this up. So this is the other story, set much earlier in time. This might end up being the girl in the other picture, the bureaucrat. But I penciled up a bunch of pages, and then this is a full-size page right here, the first page that I drew up for the story for this guy. So I'm just kind of like warming myself into some inking. Yeah, but I've got like a number of different things I use for the layouts. And actually for the this guy right here, I've actually been laying it out like a map. So I haven't gotten very far. This is like a super, super rough sketch. But just kind of like showing where different places he'll go. So like there's the ship where he starts off, this is where he lands, runs into the first part of the story, has some trouble there, goes into the ship, which is kind of sketched out here in isometric, and then kind of where he goes after that. So I've been using that to a certain degree, along with actually writing it out. But I made these, so this is actually some newer thumbnails. These haven't been turned into pages. But basically, this represents each side of a single set of pages, facing pages, and that way I can kind of sketch them out here. But what I do is I'll do like the major shot as like a storyboard. Move that back into place. A major storyboard, And then either below it or near it or whatever, I'll actually sketch the story. So like here's, he's out working right here, and then these people come up to say hello to them. Or here's, them talking to the people who meet him as a scene, and then here's the actual page layout. So I'm kind of thinking what the major beat is of the page. And then from there, this is what that page that was fully penciled was based off of. So this is the same kind of thing, it's just larger. And that way I can kind of sketch it out and see that at a small scale. So like here's the page after that, and the page after that. And then I can scan these in and blow them up and print them out and then draw on top of them for the actual pencils. And then I can scan the pencils in and get that all printed out. Yeah, but I found these. I adjusted them a little bit, and I've actually, in terms of working with that other page layout, I found they're not quite proportionately perfectly accurate. So I'll probably make my own, because I found this and then kind of made it my own. But I think I'm going to take the one that I actually made for myself and use that, just because I think it's more precise. And anytime I can get just a little bit of extra precision that's easily repeatable, I tend to prefer that. So yeah, I've been working on the story here. I've got a little kind of script written up. Been studying story structure, especially the Dan Harmon story circle. Right now I'm inking on its Strathmore 500 Vellum, I think is what it's called. Yeah, so this is actually one page right here. So if you look right there, it's just I made my own little comic paper, and then it actually has all the. This doesn't show it on here, but it has all the trim marks in the digital file. I just grabbed some pages out of my sketchbook that I'd scanned in and printed these out. You can use whatever color you want. Blue has been like the historically traditional color. That's because you throw it on a copy machine, and the copy machine won't pick up the blue. But now it doesn't matter, because you just put the I think it's the black and white adjustment layer on top, and then you can just tweak out whatever colors are in there, and you just get stuck with the black and the white afterwards. So I think I like the red better. Yeah, so yeah, I've never really done like an actual full story before, so that's why I started thinking about the simpler one, and then it's kind of gradually gotten more complex. Yeah, but I'm reading up on the Dan Harmon story circle, and I actually just write out like beats on a cards or in a. Often actually what I'm using is a spreadsheet in a doc. So I've been using Google Docs and putting a spreadsheet in there, and then you're just literally putting in you, need, go, search, find, take, return, change, and then just kind of plugging in the main beats into each of those areas, and then adding things in as I go as bullet points. Yeah, I've kind of just like really sketching with red and blue. So if you look at a lot of my sketchbook stuff, it's become the red and blue thing. So you undo the underlying red. I just like the red because it has a certain kind of intensity to it. But I was doing the blue thing, and then I kind of backed off on it. I kind of get why people use it, but if you don't have to use it, then I'm like, well, yeah, you use what you want. I probably would never use like yellow, just because you can't see yellow. But I kind of like the warmth of it. And so even though, it doesn't matter, I think for me, it just feels a little bit better. I can't remember your work. I think we follow each other, right? Work. Trying to get back into more regular posting. There you are. John J.K. Noonlay. That's right, you draw ships. That's what I was thinking. Some Star Wars portraits. Yeah, I've kind of fallen off the whole posting track myself. I'm trying to get back to it. Um, I feel like it's really hurt my account, like the visibility of it, just because I haven't been active. And so I'm trying to get back on the regular. Um, so I have it on my schedule. It doesn't always happen every single day, but posts, live streams, posts. But I'm trying to get back on those. But yeah, I want to kind of push story stuff a lot more. It's like one thing to do like little sketches. It's one of the kind of my long term pet peeves, and where I'll see artists, they'll put together these really great kind of personal uh, concept projects, but there's nothing more to it than the concept, right? The characters, the environments, and things like that. And but they never do a story with it or turn it into a game or anything. And usually it's not very good a lot of the times when they do it because they haven't learned about story. We get lost in our worlds. But it was something I was thinking about. We had Ian McCaig out at my school this spring, and kind of left me a lot of food for thought. But I also wonder with him, why isn't there an Ian McCaig graphic novel or film or whatever? But in terms of industry jobs, not at the moment. I haven't really been looking, so I should. I know there's a lot of chaos in concept art world right now between the AI delusion and over hiring and things during the vid times. So yeah, it was really great. It was a really great visit. I was kind of his little helper while he was here. So I helped him with his tech on stage and made sure he got places and met with him. It's been a long time, personal art hero of mine. So it was a really nice opportunity to get to know him a little bit. Students loved him, of course, but I tried to make opportunities for students. I teach. Well, my main job is teaching, so I teach at Virginia Commonwealth University in Richmond, Virginia. So I've taught at a bunch of places. I've been here. I just finished my second year here. I've been in probably places people more know about, which is I was most recently at Ringling down in Florida. But I've taught at a bunch of places. I even taught with SCAD when they had their Hong Kong campus. That's been a while now. It's weird how it's been so long. So I lived in Hong Kong for 4 years teaching with them. I never worked for SCAD, a miserable institution who love to impose their misery on other people. But VCU, so Virginia Commonwealth University, it's actually one of the oldest universities in the United States. I think it was founded in 1830 something. The art department itself, the communication arts department that I'm in, has been around since the 1930s. It's had a couple different names. Yeah, it was kind of magical living there. It's like you're walking around in a Blade Runner movie. Or I guess the cyberpunk game now. But I wish I'd taken more pictures. I got to be pretty miserable working for SCAD. I didn't realize how bad how bad the experience was until I got fired with a bunch of other people. One at the end of one school year. But best thing they ever did for me was getting rid of me. And then by the time they left, a couple of years later, they were $40 million in the red on their Hong Kong venture. But what was I going to say? The at VCU, the Communication Art Department, it's kind of like a general commercial art program. So it doesn't have like a strong focus in one area or the other. We do have a couple of notable faculty, a couple people that have worked with like George Lucas and Steven Spielberg and many others over the decades. So one worked on like Empire Strikes Back as an effects designer, Matt Wallen, or Ty Ruben Ellingson. He's been a concept artist, storyboard artist, production designer, etc. A lot of major productions. And he designed the Rasputin's glove for Hellboy, the movie, the first one. So Guillermo del Toro's Hellboy. But so he's here. Those two are here. So they definitely have like more significant industry and professional experience than I probably would ever have. And then everyone else, and then we also have a pretty well-known illustrator here, Sterling Huntley, who's traditional print market illustrator, and he's been a faculty member here for 20 years. So some really, really great, interesting people. And the problem with the diverse program, though, is we've kind of run into this issue where our program is the only. Well, there's like a graphic design program. It's like another commercial art sort of oriented program. But I think ours is the only one that's like unashamedly commercial, like in its focus, that we're really looking to help students have careers and success professionally outside of school, not just the theoretical. But anyway, our department has grown to be 1/3 of all the majors. There's like 10-ish majors, I think. Like your sculpture, your painting, your printmaking. So those two recently merged because they're shrinking. There's fashion and photography, and kinetic imaging, which is kind of motion design, but not really. And then graphic design, art, ed, kind of what the other ones are. But our program is basically 1/3 of all the school, which is a problem. We've got a lot of students, too many students, and we can't restrict the number because it's a part of the university's mission is to serve kind of younger, well, not younger, but kind of more first generation type students, and so we kind of pretty much have to take everybody into our major. We were able to get like a GPA restriction, but it only cuts it back by a little bit. But they cut back on the number of classes by like 1 or 2 that have to be taught. So you get a kind of a wide skill gap among the students, and we don't have any control over the first year program. So that's kind of a problem. So that's a pretty common problem with most universities, though, since the majors don't have any real input into the first year. Hopefully I can help with that this next year. But yeah, so then I teach mostly concept drawing, and then I'll be doing some illustration this semester. Over the years, I've taught just about everything. Oil painting, portrait, figure painting, still life painting, foundations, observational drawing, and linear perspective, and everything, pretty much. Traditional illustration, digital illustration, concept art, color theory. The whole gamut has been my experience teaching. Which is it's kind of a weird thing. Most people kind of teach essentially the same thing over and over and over again. But I guess not me. So I've been teaching concept design drawing, which before I was here, it was kind of taught as like a mix of drawing and digital painting and things like that. And I've really kind of been pushing it back towards the drawing side because usually for a lot of students, it's the first time they're having this class, this type of class, and so there's a lot of I'm trying to emphasize structural drawing from imagination and perspective drawing. Well, I'd like to go into the more technical stuff. We haven't been doing that here, just because we have a separate class for that. But too heavy with those lines. We'll figure it out. But so there is actually a class. There's a guy who teaches the technical perspective stuff. I could teach it too, but this guy's a emeritus faculty member who is very kind of it to actually come back and teach part time. But it's a class I could teach. I've taught that before. Do it. Done it on the regular. But yeah, concept design drawing is what I teach. So we do kind of a world building class using drawing. So I kind of give them a scenario and then they build some different things, and we cover different perspective types and how to construct things out of shapes in the context of doing kind of a world building project. Following the Ian McCaig visit, I think we're going to emphasize story a lot more as part of that. Kind of do it at the end, but I want to kind of adjust things so that there's more thought about constructing things for their projects using more story as a prompt. And the follow-up to Ian McCaig visit. So, and then I have this next semester actually will be teaching that class, but I'll be kind of putting together materials for it. But I'll be teaching a traditional illustration class. So that should be fun. It's weird. I've only been teaching like one thing since coming here, which has never happened before. So even at Ringling, I had 2 sets of classes. I would teach a set class kind of in the fall, and then a set class in the spring. So I had kind of perspective in the fall, and then figure in the spring. They were kind of continuations of each other. It's the way we were treating it. And then for motion designers. And then, but it was also kind of being brought into the motion design program, teaching some of their senior level classes, even though I'm not a motion designer at all. I don't do animation. I like 3D, but I consider myself a fan, not a professional 3D person. But my role in the class they were having me do was basically being their coach, or their like an art director for their senior projects. So like many art directors, I had no idea what I was doing. I had no practical skills for the project other than telling them what I think. And it's like I can't show them how to use Cinema 4D or After Effects and the kind of programs that they typically use outside of my skill set. So I did that a couple of times. Yep, no problem. Have a good evening. Feel free to stop in anytime. Chit chat. But yeah, that's our program here. We're working to change this. So there's going to be an illustration concentration. I've been focusing on that. That's been like my big project this last year, was kind of putting together, negotiating and organizing an illustration track inside the major. And we're excited about that. So we'll get that running in the next year or 2. Yep, have a good night. What time is it? Almost 9. There you go. It's almost time to pause. That kind of brings me to one of my production hacks that I've talked about here, which is to kind of stop a project stop working on a project when you're about to do something else, but you're kind of out of time. So you kind of know where you're going to go next, but but you're kind of out of time. And so a good plan, I think, is to kind of stop when you know what the next thing is going to be. And as a productivity hack. So basically, I know I'm going to come back to inking this, but if I leave this tree unfinished, what that means for me is that when I come back, I know that maybe that's probably where I'll start, and I kind of know what I want to do with it already. So when I sit down to work on this, say tomorrow, I know exactly what I'm going to do, and I can kind of pick up there without having to think too much about, like, what am I going to do next, or what should I do next. So that's my little productivity hack, is to kind of stop where you know what you're going to do. So rather than continuing on, I can put a pin in it here and call it a night. So appreciate everybody that came in, and get everything cleaned up here and put away, and call it a